Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. Lost the series. It was bound to happen, but nonetheless, good road trip. And but before we get started, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment. Let me know how you're feeling. After the road trip. And Victor, how you doing?
I'm doing great. We had a great win today to cap off our 3-3 road trip. That's exactly what the Mets were expecting to going into the West Coast. They didn't expect to do a little flip flop and beat the Dodgers and not the Giants, but that's what happens in baseball. I think we actually ran into harder pitching um, in this uh, in this San Francisco series, but everyone has their gripes, everyone has their highs and lows, and hopefully this was just a little 3-game losing streak that we can kind of put behind us, because we know that the standings aren't going to let up for the Mets in the wild card race, and we have to keep on playing consistent baseball to keep up a playoff push. So let's keep on playing good baseball. Let's not let these highs and lows, uh, these streaky things get in our way. And if it is streaky, let it be winning streaks.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just get right into it. Let's not play any games today. Let's get right into it. On Monday, we went against Keaton Wynn and made him look like a Cy Young candidate. And Quintana kind of let me down, didn't pitch very well, kind of nibbling. He kind of talked Gary talked about it in a broadcast that Quintana was feeling like he was nibbling too much, not attacking the pitchers, and I mean the batters, and so and the bats were relatively quiet on Monday. But yeah, my biggest gripe was Quintana not attacking these batters when these batters aren't they don't have murderers row like the Dodgers do, and you got to attack these batters.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we expected from Quintana, as fifth line starter, kind of the back of the rotation kind of guy, that I think is lined up perfectly with where the rotation is right now, because it looks like we're running into the back of the rotation instead of the front end with some of our aces now with how the schedule lined up. But he didn't look horrible to me, honestly. Obviously, he lacked control. He was throwing a lot of balls, but he also only walked 3. He went 5 innings. Yeah, he went 5 innings, which is right where we expect Mets pitchers to go, especially this season. Uh, it just looked a lot worse on paper because they were able to get him out early, and like I said, he wasn't throwing a lot of strikes. Didn't have his stuff, but this is just what we expect from Quintana. It's not worrisome to me. What was worrisome were the bats not being alive against Keaton Wynn. And I said this on our last podcast that this was the game that I was expecting us to lose, because I wasn't confident in Quintana's pitching up against Wynn. You got a young pitcher that's got some decent stuff. Uh, Not as good as we made him look, but he's also not as bad as I think everyone is expecting him to be. But we just lost flat out.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the only production we got was out of Pete on Monday. I know we scored one late, but Pete was the only one that actually. And I got to give it to Marte. Marte kept his hot streak going on Monday, but it was really you're right. Our bats made Win look. Better than he should have. He's definitely a good pitcher, but not to shut down the lineup kind of pitcher. But at the end of the day, we also it was coming. We're a bunch of streaky bats, and between the game on Sunday and game on Monday, it was just one of those streaks that we're gonna have. We just got to keep those streaks to a minimum, like you said.
Yeah, it's for sure, and it all begins with our top guys. Um, we always said that it was nice that the bottom of the lineup was hitting, and that they can only win us so many games. But the top of the lineup is really what's going to just be the deciding factor in wins. And like you said, Marte was the only one that stepped up. Brandon Nimmo and Lindor, I think, were both batting under the Mendoza line before today. I think they're still batting under the Mendoza line, and that just can't happen when you want to win ball games, especially against these close teams that you're competing for a playoff spot with. Because the San Francisco Giants are right where we are. They're trying to compete with the playoff to get into the playoffs. But we need our superstars to step up in games like this to be able to keep rallies going. And Nimmo and Lindor just don't seem like they got it.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I'm not too worried. I think they will bring it eventually, as we're going to see as far as the Wednesday game. But let's move on to the second game. Severino came out blazing. He came out hot, matched Webb inning for inning until we got to the fifth, and allowed a hit. He hadn't allowed a hit all game until that point, and I don't know what happened, but he got into the stretch and gave up a big inning. I was to the point where I was like, are we finally seeing the Severino we're expecting? And all of a sudden he gets to the fifth and it all implodes on him. And so and then our bats were quiet because we were going against Logan Webb. And Cy Young pitcher, and he showed us why he's that guy. And he got into the seventh. He was attacking the zone very what is the word I want to say? But he was making his pitches and wasn't wasting pitches. He was attacking the zone and got into the seventh. You don't see that a lot these days. But I wish more pitchers would take that approach that Logan Webb did and attack the zone. And if it's not a strikeout, so what? You're getting into the seventh inning, and you see what happens. You break the hearts of the other team when you do that, something like that.
Yeah, no, we just saw a dominant pitcher do what he does, and this is the same thing that we saw when Tyler Glasnow was out on the mound a couple of days ago, and something that I was, like I said, worried about last series because I didn't know how we would match up with these pitchers. This series kind of gave, or this start kind of gave me a little more ease because I saw a pitcher that was kind of hittable. Like I think the Mets just got unlucky a bunch of times. Brett Beatty was hitting the ball hard and just ran into some tough defense. CJ Stewart got a hit taken away from him because Michael Conforto played some great defense, and stuff like that just contributed to Logan Webb looking like a superstar. And he is a great pitcher, but I don't think he is as good as his line is saying, because eight innings, one walk, and four strikeouts is really good. But I don't think he does that next time he sees the Mets, if he sees the Mets again. Because like we saw, Marte was getting on him pretty easily. And once you figure out a game plan with a guy like that, I think it's not easy, but it's a much closer game. And on the opposite end, you saw Luis Severino do the exact opposite. He got unlucky with his hits. He gave up a couple of harder hit balls, but most of them were bloops, and they were all in bunches. They gave up basically the same amount of hits. The Giants just did it all in one inning, and that's how you do it. That's how you win ball games, right? But Luis Severino didn't give up a walk, which was the most encouraging sign from our Mets pitchers this series. I think if we have one bright spot from take away from this series, was that no one had a walk, or our walk rate went down significantly. Quintana only gave up 4 the day before. Severino didn't give up a walk in this game, and then Manaea, I think, only had what is it, like one walk, or he had 4 walks, but it's still a bunch. But we kind of expect that from Manaea. Severino. This is the guy that I think, we're hoping for when we signed him on, and it's encouraging to see that he's just getting into his own.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is an encouraging sign. I just hope that he keeps it going. He ran. Like I said today, he ran into the fifth and kind of lost it. But my hope is that he continues pitching like the first four innings. Obviously not no hit ball because that's rare, but that he does keep it going, and stretches himself out, and hopefully gets deeper into games and be that ace like pitcher that he used to be. Not the same ace like he was years ago, but if we can get close to it, we'll take it. But and then again, the bats didn't were quiet because of Logan Webb. Marte, like you said, kept it going, kept the hit streak going. Lonzo got a couple hits. But the thing out of this game was the bullpen catcher. The bullpen catcher coming in and almost dying because they did the light show and almost took him out. But he's okay, and yeah, receiving the ball from Duvall in the bullpen while he's warming up, and the lights going out on you, and still catching the ball. That's kind of scary. So
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that position ever.
No, I mean it's just it's just funny timing for everything that happened. Maybe it flustered him too because when he came out in the ninth inning, Duvall that is, he started to give up some hits and bunches, and uh, we were hoping that the Mets were able to rally late, but it didn't seem like that was going to happen. But last thing on this game I noticed was that we just really have to get to the bullpen early, man. Like that seems to be the key in all these Mets wins. If we're able to get to the bullpen early, then we're able to beat up on their bullpen. But if we let a starter get into the groove and go 8 innings like the past two superstars that we've seen do, then it's hard to win ball games that way. But watching an interview on Brandon Nimmo, he said that's what they always try to do, and they always play for tomorrow as well. And if they're able to get into the bullpen, then that's a win for them, even if they lose. So let's just see more of that so that we can continue to beat up on the bullpen because that seems to be our key to winning.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And now game three, it turned into a bullpen game for them, because Blake Snell was supposed to start this game, and he got put on the IL. And guys, I don't know about y'all, but this continues to be the theme for these late guys coming into the signing late. Blake um, was trying to be with his team as soon as possible, and kind of injured himself a little bit, right? Trying to be that guy, and signing late. I'm surprised he's still with Boris, to be honest with you, but it worked out best for us because the Lindor broke out hard. You know what I mean? He was warming up during the Dodger series, and Lindor finally is the Lindor we always thought he was. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I wouldn't go that far as to say that he's broken out. We got to see how he plays on Friday, and then we can start and through this weekend. Then we can start saying that Lindor is back. I'm not so confident, and I do have confidence that he'll break it out eventually, but not just yet. He's not out of the woods yet because he's had games like this before, and even Brandon Nimmo has had a game like this in Atlanta, and it just it didn't carry on for uh, the rest of the year so far. They're both batting under the Mendoza line, and just because he does well one game, I don't want to give it to him just yet because we can't forget what he did the night before, grounding into double plays and killing rallies and stuff like that. But for
All
all
these Lindor haters out there, you don't listen to these guys. Lindor's breaking out, and he's breaking out in a big way. We love our shortstop.
It's so funny for you to say that because I used to have to get you on the Lindor train, saying that he's the real deal, and you didn't want to believe me when he first came over to the team, and now I'm having to sound like a bad guy here, saying that Lindor is not out of the woods because he broke out one game. Like you said, he was playing against the bullpen today and was able to knock over a couple of home runs. It was encouraging that he was able to do it from the left side of the plate, but at the same time, I want to see consistency. This is something that we talked about with our whole team, and even going into the offseason, offline, we talked about Pete not being consistent.
I
And
just
his
got one question. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Who has Lindor on their fantasy team?
Exactly. That's why you're so high on it. That's why you want him to, because he got you like 20 points today.
That's
But
what I'm saying. I'm saying, don't let the Lindor haters get in your face, Lindor. You get them out your face. Keep going. We believe in you. You're our shortstop. I love it.
he's
Let's
our shortstop for
so
sure.
that kind of brings me to the standout of the series, and the batting standout is Francisco Lindor. Let's
He
go.
literally went 0 for 4 or something on Tuesday. How can we say that he's the standout of the series? And he had a horrible game on Monday too. He had one good game this series. So I wouldn't say he's the standout of the game for sure.
Standout, 4 RBIs, 2 home runs, standout of the series. Tell me who else had that line this series.
Well, we weren't producing anybody to get on base. So how can anyone have any RBIs when that's the case? You saw
Let's
that
go,
happen with
people. Let me know what you
Marte.
think. Let me know what you think. Put it in the comments. Lindor to stand out. How you feeling? And I think that's enough said. Young Padawan wants to come at it and try to take my guy. Believe in it. Believe Lindor's the guy. We love it. Let's go, Lindor.
Listen, I want Lindor to be as good as anybody. I want him to succeed and thrive in New York, but he hasn't proven it to me with just playing well one game. I hope that this boosts his confidence, but if he goes 0 for 16 this weekend, then we're not going to be here having the same conversation. I hope that he doesn't, but I'm saying, Lindor, prove me wrong. Prove to me that you've actually started your season and are not still in spring training.
All right, enough with the negative talk. Lindor's the man. We're just gonna leave it there, and let's keep going. Any concerns of the series? Honestly, my biggest concern is of this series was Mania not getting through five. Like you mentioned it earlier. He kind of still walking guys. I know that's a little bit a part of his game, a little bit, but um, you know, if he was 1 out away from winning this game, and you could see it in his face, the frustration that him coming out of the game, and so to me that's the biggest concern because we also need Mania to not, obviously he's not Cy Young level, but to be the better version of Mania versus the not so good.
Yeah, I really wish that they would have let him continue on in that game to at least get the win, especially for you since he's also on your fantasy team. That probably would have felt good. But I thought he would have been able to get Jorge Soler, just like Reed Garrett was able to get him because we're up 6-1. It was man on
Well,
first
it
and
was still
third.
6-0 at that time.
Oh, there you go. Still 6-0 at that time. And he was hoping to finally get through that jam. He retired one guy after getting into that jam and was hoping he just needed one more. And I think that Soler would have been, perfect time. I understand Mendoza not wanting to get his pitch count up because he was at like 101 pitches or something like that.
At 100 exactly.
At 100 pitches. But at the same time, just let him get it, or he has that 101. Yeah. But out of that, pitching 58, only 58 of those in the strike zone is not going to get you the win. And like Keith said in the broadcast, he did it to himself. He didn't do himself any favors by pitching so many people on base. And that's just something that I think he's going to come back with a fire and start pitching more consistently, attacking the strike zone, attacking hitters, even if it gets him hit around. I think he's going to be more aggressive. And if this is what he needs to get a groove back in him and get a fire under him, is pulling him out one shy of getting the win, then let's see if this works.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a great point. So, I kind of didn't even think about that. Maybe this is a motivating factor for Manaya, and getting, attacking the zone, kind of like what Severino and Quintana have been talking about, the nibbling too much. I think they're trying to be too precise with their pitches instead of just attacking the zone and letting the stuff play the way it's supposed to play. You got eight fielders out there. Let them field. And so I do hope that, like you said, this comes and becomes a motivating factor for these guys. So yeah, that was our my only concern. I don't know if you had any other concerns out of this series, but that for me that was the only concern.
Yeah, no, my concern was obviously we just went on a rant with Francisco Lindor, but the other guy that I'm not too worried about, but starting to get a little worried, as Brandon Nimmo, just because he's still batting below the Mendoza line. Obviously, he's walking a lot, and he's hitting the ball. It's not like he's striking out every time. It's just I need to see him get back into a groove of things, especially being that leadoff hitter. People have talked about moving him down. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he stays right where he's at. But hopefully in this St. Louis series, he's able to get back into the groove of things because, like we said, we need production from our top guys. Even Pete Alonso, we need production from those guys. If it's not a home run, just get on base somehow. Stop swinging at everything in their mother, Pete Alonso, and start getting on base. But that was my only concern. Obviously, it's going to be an up and down season, and hopefully, this is just one of those down periods right now.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I do agree with that. Like he started off in the beginning of the season striking out. This is Nimmo that we're talking about, and he's not going to move anywhere. He's not going to be moved from the top of the lineup, and only because it's not because me, I personally want him to move out of the top of the lineup. But the reason he's not moving out of the top of the lineup is that we don't have somebody to replace him up there. You can talk all you want about Marte or Lindor or McNeil going up there, but that's not going to happen. The likeliest candidate would be Lindor, but he's not going to be our leadoff hitter. So that's not going to happen. And the only guys that in our system that we have that are leadoff hitters right now are Acuna and Jet Williams, and they're not ready to come up yet. So, and the only guy that was capable of maybe leading off was Drew Gilbert. And, we got the news that he's shut down for another 4 weeks because of that hamstring. He kind of, like we mentioned when he first got injured, he probably tried to push himself a little bit because he is trying to get to the majors, and he pushed himself too hard. And, from that first to second, and now he's missing another 4 weeks, which hurts him. And, so the reason that Nimmo's not moving from the top of the lineup is that there's nobody else, so we need him to turn it around. Like you said, we need him to turn it around, continue with the walks, take away those strikeouts. Way too many strikeouts for a Nimmo. So I do agree with that. That is a concern.
Yeah, let's just see it change. That's how we start winning baseball games.
For sure, for sure. So let's get to the who's right part of the podcast. I think we already know because we mentioned it. The Mets standout is Lindor, baby. Let's go, let's go.
I'm gonna need the chat to turn in for that one. We need a third opinion and see if this is valid. But yeah, I'm not gonna go any further on that.
Yeah, Lindor. Don't let the haters hate. Just keep going, Lindor. But as far as the pitching, you pick Smith, which Drew Smith looked horrible. So and Diaz didn't even pitch this series. So
he pitched on Wednesday, but he came in a non-safe situation.
oh yeah. But it didn't even matter. But I I turned it off after watching Lindor hit the home run. So
yeah, actually, Diaz got himself into a little bit of trouble just because of some bad baseball playing by the Mets at the end there. Didn't matter in the end, but good to see that he was able to get out of that. And he wasn't throwing 100. You know, he was throwing 97, 95. He was throwing kind of not light, but he wasn't overexerting himself and was still able to get these outs, which is encouraging to see him not having to do that.
Yeah, and he's actually been doing that a lot this year. I think a week or so ago, Gary mentioned that he wasn't throwing hard, and I just wish guys start seeing these pitchers. Maybe that'll cut down on all these injuries, the epidemic that we're having in baseball right now, with all these injuries with the pitchers, is that you don't need to throw 100 miles an hour every pitch. And a lot of these guys like Logan Webb, Diaz, these guys are showing that you don't have to do that. So, but our the Mets killer of the game, we have our old boy Michael Conforto. He had actually an awesome series. He's looking like the old Conforto. I'm actually happy to see it. I've always been a Conforto fan. But I also I've been a fan, but I also thought that he was a streaky player. So I didn't wasn't too upset when he left. But I am happy to see it. Just like the Wilmer Flores guys, we're happy to see those guys do well.
Yeah, that's our guy, right? We're not gonna hate on Conforto. Love to see he's doing well. Some Mets fans would have loved to see him get a chance in New York, but I think he's right where he needs to be. Playing great outfield. You know, he made some spectacular plays out there, and getting the bat on the ball. You know, it seems like he's got come into his own in that ballpark. He's not hitting for power, but he's hitting good baseballs, and he was able to get on base a lot this series. I don't know his final line from this series, but it was he got a hit every game, and it seemed like he had a multiple hit every game. And I don't know, I don't think he drove in many runs, but he got the rally started a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, he did. He did well, and so I don't put this series that he won the series for for the Giants because I do put it on our bats. But he had just enough for him to be the standout for the Giants in this series. So happy for him, and so I think this who's right part is a push, right? Lindor on for the Mets. No pitching because Drew looked horrible, and Diaz pitched 1 inning, and Conforto, you took Conforto because I had Wade, and because of the lefties, I didn't even think about it, because the Giants do this. Because of the two lefties, Quintana and Minaya, Wade only really played one game, a game and a half. So,
Yeah,
so didn't even get a chance to be that killer because, and so it's great. I understand why the Giants do it. I also don't understand why the Giants do it. But one of the top hitters is Wade, and he was on the bench for him. But they took the series, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh,
No, for sure. It doesn't matter. This was, you know, I feel like a lot of Mets fans were ready to sell the team on Tuesday night after we lost the series, but I'm not too upset with what happened, what went down. Wade was not too much of a factor this time around. Conforto, like you said, he didn't win in the series, and it seems like we're getting back to better baseball, going back to Citi Field.
yeah, absolutely. Going 500 on a West Coast trip is not a bad trip. Obviously we could have gone 4-2. If Quintana would have been held us in the game a little bit longer. I'm still upset about that game, but going 500, not the way we thought it was going to look. Right? We thought maybe to take 2 out of 3 from the Giants and lose 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers. Well, it was flip flopped. So we're still going home 500 on the road trip in the West Coast, which is fine by me. So that's we're coming home, and we're coming to see the St. Louis Cardinals,
Oh,
and also on Saturday the City Connect uniforms on display. We're gonna see it live in living color, but
yeah, hopefully we get our gear by then so that we can rock or watch the game and rock our gear. That'd be awesome to do. I got a nice early birthday present. It's gonna come in, and I'm gonna be rocking that thing a lot this year. Those things are fire.
For sure, for sure, for sure, absolutely. So let me preview this game. So on Friday we got Michaelis versus Budo. Like big Butos, and I cannot lie. Let's go, Jose. And on Saturday we got Gray versus Hauser. Let's hope Hauser can get back to it. On a struggling St. Louis squad. So I expect Hauser to last a little bit longer in this game than he has in the previous games. And then on Sunday to close it out, Lynn against Quintana. But I think the key to this series is honestly I want to see how Hauser and Quintana respond. St. Louis is a struggling lineup, and it's one of those things where you want to see those guys bounce back. You gave them a little bit of grace because, or at least on Hauser's case, you gave him a little grace because he was going against the Dodgers lineup, but against the St. Louis lineup, we want to see him do a lot better.
Yeah, no, I think like you said, he was just pitching kind of uh, conservatively against the Dodgers, and we get to see Budo really carve up this lineup. They won their series against the Diamondbacks, so they're going to come out hot. They're going to come out with their hair on fire because we know that they're not having a great season so far. They've run into some hiccups. They didn't have a home run until a couple of nights, or they didn't have a home run since the first week of the season until a couple of nights ago. And they're going to come into this into Citi Field hot. And let's just hope that we can calm them down, keep them at bay, and that all starts with Budo on Friday. And I think, like you said, he's going to pitch aggressively, like he has in his past two starts. He's going to, pitch them in. He's not going to be scared of them. There's no one in this lineup to be scared of, really. You got, and we'll get into our Mets killers later. But there's no Otani, there's no Betts, there's no Freeman in this lineup to really pitch around. So we get to see prime Budo do what he does and attack the zone like he's been doing so well.
No, for sure, for sure. So that's what I'm looking forward to the series. I want to see Budo and Hauser kind of step up and step out and kind of separate who's because we're going to be going into May next week and the reinforcements come back, and one of these guys is going to be out of the rotation, and so they need to start separating each other from themselves, and I want to see that happen.
I think we know who it's going to be, though. We know it's going to be Hauser going into the pen, and that's not a bad role for him, honestly. I think that with how the Mets have been pitching so far, with how Manaea's not been able to go as far into games, with how with even Hauser not being able to go far into games, his role is really that long reliever role. He's got one more chance to prove it and really see what he's got. And another guy I forgot to mention this past series because and we might get into this later, but that really has to prove it, or who knows what's going to happen. But Joey Wendell is really going to have to prove his worth on the team because we know JD Martinez is coming back this series, and he might be a factor into games, but also into the roster because I don't know if we're going to keep Joey Wendell. It's either him or Zach Short, right? And I know a lot of Mets fans want to see Zach Short stay and Joey Wendell go, but these past couple of games, he's gotten a couple of shots and he's not looked horrible, but he hasn't looked great either. So that's one guy that to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We're gonna mention JD, and let's talk about him right now. Obviously, unfortunately, like we talked about the last episode, I think Wendell's the guy's going to stay only because of the politics of his salary. He's getting paid a little bit of money versus Zach Short, and honestly, I would rather see Zach Short only because Only because, not because he's better than Joey Wendell, but only because he's a right-handed batter off the bench. Maybe he does, he's not much more of a hitter than Joey Wendell, but having a lefty bat on the bench seems a little redundant to me.
Yeah, and he just really hasn't gotten his playing time. The Mets haven't really given him a shot to. He's gotten into maybe 2 games so far this year, and Joey Wendell's gotten obviously the more opportunity. And but that's one of those things where I wonder if David Stearns is just saying, "Hey, let's see what this guy has got," because if he doesn't have it, then let's just DFA him because he got paid $2 million to play this year. You know who else got paid to play $2 million this year was man, I can't even remember his name. The pitcher that pitched in the Brave series, and we DFA'd him the next day. He came in for like 2 innings.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But his contract wasn't guaranteed. That's the difference.
That's true. That's true. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Mets are just willing to drop $2 million off their payroll. We've seen them do it before. It's not a big deal, and I think it'd be a mistake to DFA Zach Short with hopes of him getting not getting claimed and hoping that he'd be back in your AAA lineup, like what happened to Nito, because who knows what's going to happen with that kid? And I think he provides more value. But at the end of the day, we got guys in the minor leagues that are still biting at the bit. So this might be a moot point at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, and it's 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 one of those things where we're talking about the end of the bench, right? But when you got a guy like when you're gonna give Beatty some breaks, you want to give it. You're probably gonna want to give it to him versus a really really tough lefty, right? And what's the point of having Joey Wendell out there when he's a lefty? You know what I mean? That he's not going to fare much better. You're just giving Beatty a rest. But with Zach Short, maybe he can get a single here or two against a tough lefty. Who knows? But I just think it's a little redundant having another lefty because you're right. It's between Wendell and Short. And because Short's not getting any playing time, most likely it's going to be Short. I mean, I do think he's going to pass through waivers just because, it is Zach Short, but I just, for $2 million, I hope they do switch it up because I don't think any. I think Joey Wendell will also pass through waivers and still be on the squad because he's not doing any much better. But obviously, DJ is not being replaced by JD because DJ has gotten hot since we wanted him off the roster. So,
Yeah. Yeah, he's looked good, man. I just remembered his name, Julio Teheran. But anyway, yeah, I'm not upset that DJ has broken out into what we've seen from him this past couple of weeks, and I just hope that he continues to play that way and provides a threat off the bench. This is one of those things that we saw on Tuesday night where it would have been great to have somebody come in that's a threat to be able to pinch hit for a guy like Joey Wendell. It would have been nice to see Tyrone Taylor go in that spot because he's been hot, and that's someone that we can get to later because he had a great game on Wednesday as well. But DJ Stewart just adds another threat off the bench, like you said, and hopefully he continues to produce. And if JD doesn't produce, then that just gives you another option at DH.
well, one, I'm not worried about JD producing because then he'll just prove our off-season episodes right. But I expect him. He had another good night tonight, and barring anything that we don't hear later, we're going to see him on Friday. But I said this the last episode, and Tyrone Taylor finally gets into a game and starts producing. I mean, I'm not, again, hear me out, people. I'm not saying Tyrone Taylor's this all round great batter or anything, but when you're seeing Bader continue to be quiet when with his bat and not see Tyrone Taylor play, Come on, guys. Come on, Mets. Let's go. Tyrone Taylor gets in there after not playing for how many games and hits a home run. Scores a couple RBIs. Maybe it's time to, make the platoon a little bit better, more 50-50 versus 75-25, Bader playing most of the time. I know the contract is, the politics of the contract is part of this deal, but to me, they're similar players versus one's actually better offensively versus one's better defensively. But what do you want more? And I'd rather have the offense.
Yeah, I feel like it's just like us kind of beating a dead horse at this point. Just talking about all these things that the Mets should do, they shouldn't do. But I'm gonna say it one more time. This is why that I thought that the JD Martinez signing wasn't the best option for the Mets because we have guys off the bench that we have guys that can rotate. We gave an opportunity for Starling Marte to get off his feet today and just DH and do his thing, and we're gonna lose that. Obviously, we're going to bring more stability to the roster and in the lineup, which might help. And I hope that that JD proves me wrong and starts producing right off the bat, so that we don't have to have conversations later on of like we were right. I hope that we're wrong, and this doesn't have to be an issue. But it would have given opportunities to guys like Tyrone Taylor to get more playing time as well. But all JD coming up does is give him less and less playing time, because that's why he was able to get into today's game, was because they wanted to give Marte a day off of his feet.
Yeah, no, and the only good thing is that we're not going to see JD every single game. At the end of the day, he is an old man, and he just got off a little bit of a back issue, so they are going to tread lightly. I don't see him playing every single game, throughout the season, and I don't see him playing every single game every week as well. Even though he's just a DH, because of that, because he is an old man. So But let's get to who you think is the next standout star for the Mets this series. I'll let you go first since I'm the champion.
All right. Yeah, I think we're gonna see the Mets come back into their own. We're gonna see these stars break out to who they're supposed to be. Lindor is going to do great this series again. Like you said, he's probably going to come back into his own and hopefully prove me wrong. But we'll see about that. But who's on the verge of hitting his 200th home run? Pete Alonso. And how great would it be for him to have a series in New York after hitting his 200th home run and carrying the Mets to a win? So he's my Mets star this time around. He's going to have a great series.
All right, that's not a bad pick. That's not a bad pick, and I'm hoping that he does hit that 200 home run. But you know what? I'm not even gonna play around. I'm just gonna keep the hot back going. I'm gonna go with my shortstop, Francisco Lindor. There's no playing around. We know who the guy is. We know who the man is, and that guy, his name is Francisco Lindor. Let's go.
Yeah, you're riding a wave right now. Let's just hope it doesn't die down soon. Wave.
Yeah. So so let's go with the pitching standout. I'm gonna go first on this one, and I'm gonna just keep the same line going. I'm not gonna even mess around. I'm not gonna even talk about everybody else. Reed Garrett's still keeping it going, but I'm gonna go with Diaz. Diaz is gonna have a good series, and I say at least close out 2 games for us this series.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick. And I hope that it doesn't get to that point. I hope that we're able to just beat up on these Cardinals so that it's not close enough for Diaz to get a save situation. But at the same time, he needs work too, right? He needs to get in there and get some work. He's only got 4 saves on the season. He's still got a 1 ERA, but he's only pitched like 20 innings or 14 innings or something like that. So I'd love to see him get more work. But my guy is someone that's off the IL, is ready to go, and is probably going to be needed in 2 of these games because Quintana and Hauser are probably not going to go that far. And that's my man, SRF, Sean Reed Foley. He's going to come in both of those games and probably get the W.
Our boy Foley, let's go, let's go. So glad to see him back. So I'm glad to see him healthy, and hope he can keep it going as well. Who's let's get to the Mets killer. Who do you think will be the Mets killer this series?
Is there even a question? I mean, we've avoided all the Mets killers leading up to this series and have regretted it because we forget about them. But isn't there one guy on the Cardinals that all Mets fans just particularly hate? And it's not a secret. It's Nolan Arenado. I hope that he has a horrible series, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts if he can carry the Mets. I mean, sorry, he can carry the Cardinals into one win this series. I hope that he doesn't. I hope I hope we run him in on the hands again and he gets mad and tries to charge the mound. But at the end of the day, no Mets fan likes Nolan Arenado, and I hope that he doesn't kill the Mets. But that's my guy.
Okay, yeah, not a bad pick, not a bad pick. He's actually been struggling, so hopefully that stays that way. But let's again, like all these picks, just enough for the Mets to keep it going, right? Just to be a thorn, but not to win it. But the guy that I'm going to be picking is there was a couple guys, um, Nolan Gorman, Donovan, a couple guys like that, Contreras. But my guy that I'm going to pick, and it's going to be one of those three. I'm gonna go with Wilson Contreras.
My guy, my guy. Hopefully he doesn't kill the Mets like crazy. We're to the point that he loses us games, but hopefully he produces so that my fantasy can thrive.
Yeah, no, for sure. Again, a thorn, but that's about it. Not something that we want them to be all-out superstars and cost us some games. So, that's and we got to the news and notes of portion of the podcast, kind of in the middle of it. So, we're looking forward to the live debut on Saturday for the City Connect, and and live debut of JD Martinez on Friday, hitting behind Pete. Maybe having JD Martinez will wake up Pete a little bit, because there'll be that veteran presence behind him, and something that he doesn't have to shoulder by himself, because I think Pete does put a lot of pressure on himself. So let's keep it going. Let's get back on the series W column and take the series from St. Louis. But before we get out of here, guys, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment. Victor and I were kind of going back and forth this series, this video. Let me know what you think. Lindor's our shortstop, or you're a Lindor hater like Victor. Let me know. Let me know what you think. But before we get out of here, Victor, any last words?
No, let's see JD Martinez back in this lineup and let's get this push so that we can go on another 6-game winning streak. Let's go Mets.
All right, people, let's go Mets.